Those of you who have joined, welcome and good evening to all of you. I shall take you through a few slides and then introduce you to the speaker today. Hope my screen is visible to you. Detailed preparation strategy for quantitative ability in CAT25 and OMETs, that is, other management entrance exams or tests. And this is in partnership with our partner Study Break Academy. My name is Ranjan Kumar Majumdar. Many of you would have met me before. I lead Constellation. Um, Constellation is about 14 years old, and we have stuck to our primary aims of assisting students in their careers, in their placements. And we have a number of courses which you might have seen in the introductory video. Um, Professionally, I am a software professional and a management professional with degrees from IIT Kharagpur and IIM Calcutta. Today, I have with me Mr. Dipanjan Bhaumik from Study Break Academy. He is the co-founder of this institute, and Study Break Academy specializes in coaching students for CAT and other management exams in our country. Uh, Dipanjan was also associated with Constellation and assists us in our aptitude test preparation courses. He has more than 10 years of experiences in various entrance exams, not only in CAT and management related, as you can see, GMAT, bank PO, government sector. So any of you along with MBA entrance exams would also like to prepare for studies in these areas, in the government exams and other exams, competitive exams, you're very welcome to contact Study Break Academy or contact us and enroll in the subjects or in the courses. Dipanjan is a specialist in quantitative aptitude, data interpretation, data sufficiency, logical reasoning. These are the areas, and he has worked with time. And from an education point of view, he is a BTech in computer science and engineering from NIT Silchar. Interestingly, Dipanjan and his team appears for CAT every year, and they always end up scoring 99 plus percentile. And so they keep themselves in tune with the latest trends in these important exams. And their students have done extremely well. This is the team from Study Break Academy. Proud to introduce Indranil Biswas, Shubhadeep Roy, Pragyan Roy, Dipanjan Bhaumik, and Sumanto Saha. And students, if you would like to go for physical training or online training with Study Break Academy for 2025 for preparation for CAT and other management entrance tests, then I would definitely recommend Study Break Academy for your preparation. This is a snapshot of the kind of performances that they have had in the current year, the last year, and many of their students have been doing extremely well and qualify in some of the most prestigious institutes, including the IIMs in India. So, with those words, I would, at this point of time, would like to hand it over to Dipanjan sir. Dipanjan sir, are you there?
I hope I'm audible as well as visible.
You are audible and you are visible, and we have quite a few participants in our webinar today. And I hope all of them will gain a lot from the discussions that you would have in providing guidance for preparation for common aptitude tests, CAT, and other entrance exams. Over to you, Dipanjan, sir.
Absolutely. I'll try my best. I'll share all my experiences, and I can see quite a few participants here. Nice to see so many people interested. Okay, so let me first take you through the topic of discussion today. So it's a detailed preparation strategy for quantitative ability in CAT25 and OMETs. So CAT is for Common Admission Test. OMET is for other management entrance tests like XAT, SNAP, NMAT, etc. There are n number of tests all throughout India. Right. So, if at all you are thinking of preparing for any of these tests, and if generally I've seen that if the students are in the pre-final year or in the final year of their graduation, or maybe they are working also, working, let's say they have a couple of years of experience. Generally, this group of students, they are interested in taking up MBA as a career choice. So it's for all of you. And if you have decided or you are at the verge of deciding that you want to take up CAT 25, then I would always suggest better plan earlier, plan completely earlier, and then execute it properly. There should not be any loopholes in the plans that you are making. So that is where we are trying to help you out in this webinar. This will specifically be for quantitative ability. It's one of the sections in CAT, not only in CAT, in any of the tests you take. But initially, I'll talk overall about a few things which people generally miss out when they think about CAT. Because if you look at the if you look at the market scenario, the common I would say the common mistakes that people commit, or maybe some of the things which are already stuck in people's heads and they keep on sharing it everywhere. Uh, Maybe they are not completely correct. So we'll take up a few of those questions as well. I'll answer all those questions. And if at all you have any sort of doubts, you can always come up with a doubt. You can put it in the chat box and I'll answer them too. Right. So without any further ado, let me do the technicalities. I hope my screen is visible and
Yes,
I'm
yes,
audible to everybody.
yes,
Okay.
you are visible and you are also audible.
Okay. So this is the topic, detailed preparation strategy for quantitative ability in CAT25 and OMETs. Before going into quantitative ability and CAT overall, let me give you a practical scenario. Let me talk about a practical scenario regarding any of the national level tests that you'll be taking, whatever be it. If it's a national level test, the amount of effort that you have to put in, it's generally more than a regular exam. It's always generally more than a regular exam. I'll give you a very good example. Here you can see the name Kumar Sai Vishnu, and you can see 100 percentile written besides him, right? Cat 23. Cat 23, according to me, it was one of the most difficult cat papers that I have ever seen in my entire career. And this guy secured a 100 percentile there. And the marks that he scored, nobody will be able to say that the cat paper was difficult. So those were the kinds of marks he scored. And this was his second attempt. In his first attempt, he scored somewhere around 97.03 percentile, something like this, way back in 2022. Then I remember we had a 1.5 hour telephonic conversation, me and Vishnu. where he was not really able to understand what went wrong, right? So students often need that counseling session, right? What went wrong, or what am I doing wrong? Why am I not able to score in the mocks, or maybe in the actual tests I've not done quite well, which I had expected. So what was the matter? So I simply asked him to remove the distractions from his life. By distractions, I meant social media distractions and many other distractions that people generally have. Let's say festivals, let's say gatherings with relatives, with friends. I know that these things are very, very important, but from the perspective of preparation of a test, it's my like utmost request to all of you that for 1 year, not even for 1 year, for the next 9, 10 months, 12 months, you keep all the distractions away. And that is exactly what Vishnu did. He kept his phone away so much that there were times when, let's say, he had an online session with us at, let's say, around 9 p.m. at night. I kept on calling him. He was not picking up the phone. And I kept on calling him twice, thrice. He was not picking up the phone. Then at maybe 11 or 12, suddenly I get a call from Vishnu. He told me that, sir, okay, I completely missed out your call because I didn't even know where my phone was. He got that much distracted with, sorry, he got that much away from all sorts of distractions from social media and everything. So on YouTube and on social media, he was particularly interested in a few podcasts. Except those, he was completely away from all sorts of distractions. So that will be my first suggestion to every one of you who wants to come out with good results, who wants to create an impact, and in short, who wants to score a very good percentile, crack the GWPI process, and get into a very, very good B school. For the next 1 year, you should stay away from all sorts of distractions. Everything later, studies first. Your preparation should be the first in your pecking order, and everything else can wait. So if you can do that, then definitely you will come out with flying colors because it's not rocket science. CAT is not at all rocket science, right? Okay, so now let me move to what are the different MBA entrance tests all throughout India that you generally get, right? I have written down a few. Most of them, I think you already know. CAT, ZAT, NMAT, SNAP, MyCat, CMAT, MAT, IBSAT, ATMA, XGMT. There are n number of exams, right? Out of all these exams, particularly CAT, this one, people know about this one a lot. Why? One of the primary reasons is obviously the IIMs, the Indian Institute of Management. So the and that too, I would say the six top IIMs, the Blackie. So people are generally really like a lot attracted towards the old IIMs. So that's obviously one of the prime attractions. And the other factor about CAT is that most of the B schools in India, they accept CAT scores, right? The process is not like which we had after class 12. To get into a college for graduation, that process was different. This process is different. That process was where you had a test, you take the test, you get some marks, you get some percentage, some percentile. Accordingly, you do the counseling and you have a list of colleges and you get an entrance into one of the colleges. That was the usual approach. But once you come to MBA, that becomes much, much more professional, where only taking the test, that won't help. You take the test, you get the score, and you have to apply to different B schools with that score. So there is a criterion involved where the B school has to accept the test that you are taking. Say, for example, if you take CAT and you want an admission in XLRI Jamshedpur, you cannot do that. Why? Because XLRI Jamshedpur has a completely separate test of their own. That's called ZAT, right? Using the CAT score, you cannot have an admission in Narsee Monjee, Mumbai, because they have a different test called NMAT. You cannot go to the Symbiosis group of colleges because they have a different test called SNAP. But there are certain colleges who who consider multiple tests. Like, say for example, if I talk about SPJAN, SPJAN accepts CAT scores, ZAT scores, GMAT scores, right, and possibly CMAT scores also. So there are certain colleges who accept multiple tests. So that is also one of the prime attractions of CAT, that most of the B schools in India, they accept CAT scores. So these are the two primary reasons why people mostly know about CAT or they want to take CAT. Then, if you talk about ZAT, conducted by XLRI, Jamshedpur, XLRI, everybody knows about XLRI, right? It's one of the top 10 B schools all over India. XLRI HRM course is actually the number one all over Asia, right? So that's a big deal. Like, we are talking about 30 LPS, 35 LPA as the average package coming out of XLRI as an HR. So if you are specifically interested in HR, that will be your go-to college, right? Similarly, NMAT is for Narsee Monjee Mumbai, SNAP is for Symbiosis, MyCat is for Mudra Institute, and if you are creative enough, you are interested in, let's say, advertisements, media communication, then MyCat is the go-to college for you. Then CMAT, specifically for colleges in Maharashtra. MAT, IBSAT. IBSAT is a college-specific test again. It's for IBS Hyderabad. So there are many different colleges, but nothing compares to CAT. Why? Because of the because of how much spread out they are. First of all, the IMs and most of the other good B schools, they accept CAT scores. So that is why people are so interested in taking CAT. And usually people have a notion that CAT is very, very difficult, extremely difficult. And at times people have a notion that, okay, ZAT is even more difficult than CAT. Right. So these are some of the things which goes on in a student's mind, because the student keeps on hearing these from his or her seniors, from relatives, from parents, from other sources, from the internet. He or she keeps on hearing about all these things regarding the difficulty. So I'll tell you how a difficulty is measured, and how exactly you can understand that CAT is not difficult, or rather, cracking CAT is not that difficult. The question paper, a few of the questions, they might be difficult, but cracking CAT is actually not that difficult. People falter in understanding that, okay, CAT difficult, the questions are difficult, so always they keep on practicing difficult questions, and while doing that, they miss out on the very basic idea that I do not have to answer each and every question in the paper. That's not mandatory, right? So I'll go through all these topics one by one. So after being done with the MBA entrance tests in India, yeah, these are some of the very basic questions which generally pops up in a student's head, right? First question, is CAT a selection test? A big no. CAT is not a selection test. CAT is rather a deselection test. Now, what do you mean by deselection? Deselection means, first of all, we know that CAT is conducted by one of the old IIMs, one of the six old IIMs: Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Calcutta, Kozhikode, Lucknow, Indore. These are the six. They're called Blackie. So CAT is conducted by one of these institutes. Now, obviously, they have an entire process. They have to make different sets of questions. There are generally there are three different slots in which CAT is conducted. So question making is one of the difficult tasks. Then they have a major issue when they see that, okay, there are 330,000 applicants. The number of forms, it's 330,000 for the past 2 years, out of which almost 290,000 people, they are actually taking test, right? The rest of them are not taking the test. Among these 2,90,000, if I if I even attempt to meet everybody, each and every one of them, if I even try to take an interview of each and every one of them, that will take me years. And the amount of resource, the amount of money that I have to spend to actually interview all these characters will be humongous, right? Even if I do it online, the professors will go mad because the professors, they have to conduct the classes in the colleges and they have to take the interviews as well. So that's a humongous effort. That's why what they did is they wanted a solution to this. And the solution to this is, before getting into the interview, take a screening test. Take a screening test, put a filter, so that through that filter, through that filter, what you can do is, once each and every student gets through that filter, I'll on the other side of the filter, I'll only get a few students who are genuinely interested in the test. How would I understand whether a student is genuinely interested in the test or genuinely interested in doing an MBA? Give them a test, make them prepare. If they prepare hard enough and they're able to move through to the other half of the screening of the filter, then obviously they are serious about the test, right? They have prepared hard. They have not thought about any sort of distractions for maybe 1 year, maybe a couple of years. They've not thought about anything else, and they're completely prepared for the test. That's why they have scored well. Now, after scoring well, let's say there are around 30,000 candidates who scored well. Now I want to interview them. So, interview is a must. The group discussions, the group exercises, the case discussions, and interviews, these are a must. These have to happen. But before that, they want to reduce the numbers. That reduction is the numbers is done by CAT. So that's why they want to test in between. You take the test. If you can go to the other side of the filter, then it becomes a selection test. Otherwise, it's a deselection test. So remember this, that once you are taking CAT, they want you to move out of the competition. That's why they have kept this test. Once you break that barrier, you are into the other side of the filter, then they desperately want to select you, right? So this is something, a very, very practical thing, which you should keep in your mind. The second point is, why does CAT conduct an aptitude test? First of all, what is an aptitude test? An aptitude test is something where we are given questions which are related to uh, daily practices, right? We are given questions on a few mathematical topics which we actually encounter every day. We encounter profit and loss every day. We encounter the applications of ratio, the applications of speed, time and distance, time and work, simple and compound interest. We go through these things every day, right? That's why, if you remember, till class 10, these are the topics which have been taught to you mostly, along with algebra, geometry, number systems, probability, etc. But those things were first. That is called the arithmetic part, right? So they give you questions on the basis of all these topics only. They just extend it a bit and give practical questions which have calculations in them. They call it data interpretation. They give you practical scenarios which have interpretations of logic in them, and they call it logical reasoning. And they also want to test your English skills. Not English, that would be wrong, your verbal ability skills. There's a difference between English questions and verbal ability questions. English questions means English grammar, English literature, specifically from those. Verbal ability is something different. Verbal ability is where any kind of a practical scenario where you require mostly reading of a passage and interpreting what it means, what it might mean. So you need that critical thinking also. That is what they test in verbal ability. right? So verbal ability not only tests your English skills, it also tests your critical thinking. So we have a different segment called critical reasoning also, right? So they give you all these kinds of questions which are called aptitude questions, and the reason behind this is it's a very simple logic. The reason is they are open to all sorts of students, all kinds of students, right? A humanities background student who is a graduate, he or she can take CAT. An engineer, he or she can take CAT. An English honors, he or she can take CAT. A geography honors, he or she can take CAT. Everybody, a doctor, he or she can take CAT. Anybody, a lawyer, he or she can also take CAT. So if it's open to everybody, I cannot give them a unanimous paper which tests their graduation skills. I cannot do that because everybody has a different graduation. So in that case, I have to make a question paper, a different question paper every time. Every time there is an engineer, I have to give him an engineering paper, and there are also segments there. Civil engineer will have a different paper. Computer science engineering will have a different paper. So I have to make enormous number of question papers just to test, just to make that filter. They do not want to do that. That's why they want to give a barrier. They want to give a filter which consists of topics which everybody has done in his or her life at least once. That is till class 10. So that is the agenda behind conducting CAT. There's no other agenda. It obviously it tests your test taking skills, your time management skills. Everything is okay, but the actual reason is this one, that they want to put a filter in between. It's a screening test so that the number of applicants are reduced. And they want to give subjects which you have done till class 10 only, because that's the only common part for every student in India. Okay. Next is score and percentile. So, first of all, you have to understand the difference between both of them. Score, let's say last year, CAT had a format where they gave 68 questions. So, 68 questions, and each question consists of 3 marks. So, 68 into 3, 180 plus 24, 204 marks. So, 204 was the maximum marks awarded in the entire CAT paper. And in those 68 questions, let's say you answered 30 of them correctly and you made some mistakes somewhere. So accordingly, there are positives and negatives. So cutting out everything, you'll have some score, right? That's called a score. But actually, nobody's interested in your score. Score in CAT doesn't reflect anything. Percentile reflects. What is a percentile? Percentile is basically ranking. What sort of ranking? If I am a 90 percentiler in CAT, that means I'm among the top 10 percentage of the students who have taken CAT, or in other words, 90 percentage of the students are behind me. If I'm a 99 percentiler in CAT, that means 99 percentage of the students are behind me. I'm among the top 1% of the students. So that's what percentile refers to. Now, a genuine doubt for most of the students I've seen till date, they always want to predict. They always want a prediction that, sir, if I score this much, how much percentile will I get? If I answer these many questions, how much percentile will I get? They have all sorts of predictions going on in their minds, and the internet helps them a lot in getting confused. Right, because every time you go through the internet, there will be somebody posting that, okay, you have to answer 20 questions to get this much percentile. You have to answer 15 questions to get this much percentile, but with 80% accuracy and loads of other things. But do you really think while taking a test which is a national level test, you have so much of pressure in your mind, do you really think you will keep on counting that, okay, out of these 22 questions, I have to answer 15, I have to answer 16? Let me start. Okay, the paper is a bit difficult. 15, how do I reach 15? It keeps on poking you every time, every second of that particular time, it will keep on poking you. That is not how you take CAT. That is absolutely not how you take CAT. So while taking CAT, you just have to forget about everything else. You just have to focus on your confidence in different topics, how much you have practiced, which are the questions you feel are easier for you, which are the questions you feel are difficult for you. You have to discard them. That's the only thing you have to think about. You should not think about any particular college. You should not think about, okay, I have to answer these many questions. Otherwise, maybe I'll miss out on MDI Gurgaon. You should not think of any of these, right? Score versus percentile. I'll give you an example. If we talk about CAT 2024, CAT 2023, CAT 2022, CAT 2021, if I talk about these 4 years, everybody is interested in. I know that 99 percentile is a very interesting factor. Everybody is interested in that. So 99 percentile, if I look at every year, they had a completely different score every year. In 2003, that was one of the most difficult papers that I've ever encountered in CAT. And the total marks, there were 66 questions. So 66 into 3, 198 marks. Now, generally, when I ask a student that how much do you think will be a very good score for you out of 198, most of the students end up saying 180, 190. Some people even say 198 out of 198. And I think that, okay, uh, the marks that they are saying, if somebody gets it, then he or she will be recorded in the Guinness Book of World Record. Because in 2023, a 99 percentile was offered to somebody who scored 76 marks all over. 76 marks out of 198. Can you even imagine that? 76 means, I know that every question carries 3 marks. So 75 upon 3, that's 25. So you score roughly 25 in each section because CAT has got 3 sections. You roughly score 25 in each section. And that, sorry, not 25. So 75 divided by 3. So basically, you answer 25 questions in total. Beg your pardon. 25 questions in total in the 3 sections all together out of 66. That gives you a 75 marks. That gives you a 99 percentile score. So if you're answering 25 questions, that is 8 to 9 questions per section. That itself gives you a 99 percentile overall. That was the scenario in 2023. In 2022,
Sir, I
that
have a
was,
question.
yes, sir.
Is there negative marking also?
Yes, absolutely. There is. If you answer a question, there are 2 types of questions in CAT. I was about to discuss that here in the exam format. So there are 2 types of questions in CAT. One of them is MCQ, and the other one is theta. Everybody knows about MCQ, multiple choice questions, where they give you 4 options. One of them is the correct one. Theta is type in the answer, where they do not provide you with any options. They just give you a box. That box has a numpad below it. So whatever is the answer, let's say if the answer is 25, you click on 2 and 5, and it takes the input. You have to put save and next. That's it. That's your answer. Now, in case of MCQs, if you answer a question correctly, you are offered 3 marks. Same for theta. If you answer it correctly, you're offered 3 marks. But if you answer incorrectly, in an MCQ, there will be a -1. But in case of a theta, there will be nothing. No negative marking in theta. So that's an advantage as well as a disadvantage because they're not giving you the options. That's why they do not want to negate your marks. But because in MCQ, they have given you options, the answer is basically in front of you. That's why if you commit a mistake there, there is a negative mark.
Sir, on that,
Yeah.
so from a student's point of view, if he strategizes
Yeah.
and says that basically, if I answer 25 questions correctly, I
Yes, sir.
should be able to make it. 25 to 26 questions correctly, I should be able to make it. But
Uh,
then, but then some will go wrong. You don't know
yes,
because,
absolutely.
as I understand, in these kind of exams, it looks like both the options could be correct.
Absolutely.
It's a very dangerous situation. So I might think that let me try 100 questions with confidence. So if I get some negative marks, I might land up with 75, 76, or maybe around 80. Is that the kind of strategy one has to follow?
That can be a strategy provided a student has confidence over lots of topics, because
Okay.
the topics will be from various chapters. Some of them will be from time, period, distance, some of them geometry, some of the numbers, permutations and combinations, probability, etc. Many things combined. So if a student feels like I'm confident about, let's say, 90 percentage of the topics in quants, so obviously he or she can increase the number of attempts as much as possible. But in case of CAT, my suggestion will be you should not go for a blind answer anywhere, like what we call as tukka. You should
Okay.
not be doing this, because CAT is that sort of a test where they give you ample amount of time to think. Whereas if you think about Snap, Snap is not that sort of a test. Snap is a speed game where you have 60 minutes, you have to answer 60 questions. There maybe you can, whenever you feel like, okay, maybe the answer is somewhere between 40 and 50. I have two options, but I think the answer will be more tilted towards 50. So let me mark 48. So you can do that in Snap because you cannot afford that much of time. But in case of CAT, you have that much of time. They give you that much of time to think, and the questions are not really that easy that you can actually, okay, iska A uska B karke jate hain. Let's say, let's increase the number of attempts. That should not be done. I can show i can show a very good example also. I've taken a few questions here. I can show how they think about the options. They do not place the options just like that. They
So,
place the options thinking about the student strategy.
sir,
So
one more question. Since
yeah.
I see that a lot of students who have joined are
Mm,
basically our students from colleges where we take Constellation conducts courses, or
yeah,
they are students who have registered for our courses, and I know they are students.
okay,
So one aspect, is many of them are, along with maybe MBA entrance exam preparation, they are also preparing for their placements, in which
absolutely.
again this aptitude test preparation is a very important area, because that is the first gate. And we see that anything, and I mean, minimum I suggest to my students is they should score 60%, which
Absolutely.
will put them in a safe zone, because we don't know what is the cutoff by different companies. So 60% they should aim as minimum. If I were to keep placement aptitude test at one end of the spectrum and CAT at the other end of the spectrum in terms of the difficulty level, then what is that? I mean, how much beyond placement preparation does a student have to prepare for CAT? Number one. And is it really that, if he does more sums, if he does tries to increase speed, then he can do CAT, or CAT is a very different game altogether, where the problem solving is very, very different than simple aptitude test. I keep on telling my students, because at one point of time I had given CAT and qualified and went to IIM Calcutta, because even then I found that it is not a very simple thing. It's not just about solving a lot of questions and picking up speed. So that's what is my first question. And second question, it would be, to put a line and say, if placement says at one end, CAT at the other end, how do you classify the other tests in terms of complexities, if that is possible to
I'll try. I'll
do? Okay.
definitely give it a try.
Yeah, thanks.
The first one is, let me answer about the difficulty levels first. The difficulty level of CAT with respect to campus recruitment tests. I cannot quantify it directly, but let's say on a scale of 10, if I consider 10 to be the CAT level, then possibly the campus recruitment level will be somewhere around 5, 6, not more than that.
Oh, that's good.
So,
Okay.
if you really need to crack CAT and you are preparing for campus recruitments, then you just have to push yourself a bit more, not only in terms of practice. It's not like only practicing more sums will give you a place in CAT. No, but regarding concepts as well, there are a few concepts in CAT which possibly might not appear in campus recruitment tests. And every campus recruitment test will have a certain ceiling in difficulty. They would not go beyond that because that's not their requirement, right? It's not like they do not want to torture students or they want to torture students. It's not like this. They have a particular difficulty, a ceiling in the difficulty levels beyond which they do not require it. But in CAT, they require it because around 3.3 lakh students are appearing and they don't have way too many seats. If I look at the IIMs also, they
Yeah.
don't have, they have a total of how much? Around 10,000 seats overall.
Right.
So
Right.
to suffice that, they need a very strong kind of a test, and CAT has a reputation to hold. They have been conducting very good aptitude tests since a long period of time. So I would say campus recruitment tests, if you are preparing for it, then you have to push yourself a bit further, not only in terms of practice, but in terms of basics as well. A few of the topics which might not be there in campus recruitment tests might as well be there in CAT. So
Right.
you have to prepare for them, and specifically DILR, data interpretation and logical reasoning. It's a completely different ball game in CAT.
Okay.
Like even if I compare CAT with other MBA entrance tests, still there is no match.
Okay.
CAT
Oh,
has
wow.
gone to that level in data interpretation and logical reasoning.
Okay. Okay.
So every other test on one side, CAT on one side. That's what we can say about difficulty levels.
Uh, and on a number line, if you'd like to plot, if you go to your previous slide and try to give an example of if cat is at the extreme difficulty level, where does the other test stand?
Other tests. Okay. Uh, Let me do one thing. Let me start with putting 10 for CAT.
Yeah,
In
that.
that case,
Yeah.
that will almost be similar, but
Mhm.
the only thing is their difficulty levels, they do not remain the same every year. They keep
Okay.
on varying. You can already see that I wrote 99 percentile in CAT 23 at 76, 99 percentile in CAT 22 at 84, and last year in 2024, 99 percentile was at 96. So the
Okay.
difficulty levels, they keep on dancing around, right?
Okay.
So accordingly, I'll say that will be somewhere around 9, 9 to 9.5 maybe.
Okay.
But in case of difficulty level in DILR, CAT will be far, far ahead of everybody else.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, regarding NMAT and SNAP, with respect to CAT, SNAP will possibly be somewhere around 4 to 5 maybe.
Okay.
NMAT will be around 5 to 6. MyCat has a completely different type of an exam. MyCat is not only based on aptitude. They they have a different sector completely. They give you an MBA in advertising. So they want creative people. So
Okay.
if they want creative people, they have a method where there are you might have to write a short story based on a few pictures, and there are psychometric tests, and also they have a completely different kind of test altogether, which cannot be compared with this.
Okay.
And if I go to math, that'll again be somewhere around 5 to 6, not more than that. IB set again 4 to 5, ATMA 4 to 5, and XGMT again 5 to 6. That's possibly, and CMAT will also be around 5 to 6.
Okay. So there's quite a significant difference, and
Absolutely.
so cat and zat are at a similar level altogether, which is the most difficult
Yes.
ones. Where would you put a typical campus placement?
Campus placement will be somewhere around 5 to 6, not
Wow.
more than that. A
Okay.
maximum of 5 to 6.
So if somebody is studying very well for his campus recruitment, then he has a good chance of qualifying for a good
Absolutely.
MBA college. Yeah.
The things that I've written accordingly, he has a 60% chance. So
Fantastic.
he has to improve it. He has to push it further. And that's why, actually, sir, I have seen a lot of students prepare for CAT so that they can do well in banking and government sector tests.
Yeah.
and many of them have cracked actually.
Yeah.
So this has become a new trend that if you want to crack SBIPO, SBIPO is a very difficult test in terms of competition, if you can see. So if you want to crack that, you start preparing for CAT. Once you start preparing for CAT, you get all those difficult sets. You churn your mind. You keep pulling your hairs out, and you keep on practicing again, again, again. Suddenly, SBIPO starts looking easier, which won't be the case if you prepare only for SBIPO. The
Correct.
same goes for campus recruitment as well.
Yeah.
For campus recruitment, if I need to, if let's say if I take a question paper of the campus recruitment and the question paper of CAT, if I start solving the question papers of CAT, if I develop a habit of solving the question papers of CAT, suddenly I'll feel that okay, campus recruitment तो बहुत आसान है.
Yeah. That is
Like
true.
it's
Of
like
course.
very basic. So once you like you shoot for the star, you land in the moon. So that's
Yeah.
what they say.
Yeah. Great.
So if somebody starts preparing for CAT, then every other aptitude test in and around you will start appearing easier. And that's a fact. That's a proven fact.
Thank you, sir. Yeah.
Okay. So continuing with my questions, CAT exam format, again, exam format is something which you should not really trust completely. Why? Because they keep on changing it, right? In 2023, they had a 66 questions format, which they continued for a couple of years. Then in 2024, they increased 2 questions. They changed the format of verbal questions a bit. They increased 2 questions in DILR. So this is something quite normal in CAT. A few subtle changes here and there in the CAT format. It started like before COVID, they had 2 slots. Now after COVID, they started 3 slots because of the social distancing thing. So and they are still continuing with the 3 slots, 2 or 3 slots format. So hopefully they'll be doing the same thing next year also. Next year in CAT 25, I guess I am COE code will be the one conducting. So regarding CAT exam format, the basic thing is +3 -1 for MCQ, for theta +3 and 0. And number of questions is something which you cannot really trust. They might change it. And till now, they have 3 sections. They have distributed 40 minutes for each section and you cannot do anything about it. It's like they start with verbal 40 minutes, automatically it switches to DILR, 40 minutes, automatically it switches to quants, 40 minutes, get out. So that's the format, right? And they have kept it for quite some time. So hopefully they'll keep the same format. But if it changes, then you cannot say anything about it. Now, the thing that Ranjan sir was talking about a few minutes back regarding like if there is a line where I can place CAT and the other tests as well, that's why I had written this 360-degree prep, which you require. Because I'll take a few examples. Say, for example, in a test like MAT, they do not give you much questions on geometry. They give you questions on mensuration. They do not give you much questions on numbers, right? Let's say if I talk about Snap, Snap has stopped giving reading comprehensions. Snap instead gives you questions on vocabulary. Snap gives you direct questions based on grammar, right? Which CAT doesn't give. And let's say if I talk about NMAT, NMAT is a test where they give you enough amount of calculations in the data interpretation part, but they do not provide you with a calculator. CAT provides you with a calculator, right? And NMAT doesn't even have any negative marking. You have to answer a question, then and only then you can move to the next question. Otherwise, you can't. So it cannot be like out of the entire so-called syllabus, these are the primary topics which appear in CAT. So I'll study only these. That should not be the approach because CAT is not the only test you'll be taking. Nobody does that. CAT is not the only test you'll be taking. If you are taking other tests, like if you are taking XAT, you have to practice reading comprehensions which are poem based. If you are taking tests like SNAP, NMAT, MAT, you have to study logical reasoning, say input output, blood relations, coding decoding, direction sense. You have to study all of that, which never appear in CAT. Right. So it should not be like I focus only on the topics which appear in CAT and I completely ignore the other topics. That should not be the way. It should be a 360-degree approach, all in aptitude, everything in aptitude. We should be preparing for all of that so that we can keep ourselves open to most of the tests. So that not only MBA entrance tests, I can go for campus recruitment as well. I can go for banking tests. I can go for government sector tests. I can even go for UPSC, the first part that they have, CSAT, that also consists of aptitude, so that it helps me everywhere. So when I'm preparing for CAT, I should think that I'm preparing for aptitude as a whole, not only CAT. Right. Okay. Now let's come back to our actual topic, which was quantitative ability. Quantitative ability, obviously, a major portion in every test. You just name it. Any test, it has got quantitative ability questions. And people usually think that quantitative ability is equal to maths. No, it's not equal to maths. Otherwise, they would have named it maths simply. They did not name it maths, so there must be some reason behind it. The reason is whenever you have a scenario in your life where you need to quantify something that might consist of logic, that might consist of English language, that might consist of a lot of things, right? Whenever numbers are there, numbers are put into that scenario, that comes under quantitative ability. Right. So wherever you can quantify something, that comes under quantitative ability. I'll talk about the different types of questions or the modules that quants has been broken into, the different types of modules, and what are the topics which come under it. The first one, the most important one, which consists of around 40 percentage of, actually 40 to 45 percentage, I would say 40 to 45 percentage of the entire CAT paper. That is arithmetic. Arithmetic consists of topics like linear equations, ratio, proportion, and variation, percentage, profit and loss, simple and compound interest, average mixtures and allegations, time and work, time, speed, and distance. These seven topics, they are the building blocks of arithmetic, and most of the questions in any given aptitude test are from these seven topics only. So if you can master ratio properly, and all these are connected very, very well. You need to know how to frame equations before you study ratio. You need to know ratio before you start studying about percentage, profit and loss. In fact, you need to know about percentages before going into profit and loss. You need to have idea about percentages before you move to simple and compound interest or average mixtures and allegations. You need to know about ratio before going to time and work and time, speed, and distance also. Right. So each and every one of them is connected. And this is the region where mostly people talk about shortcuts. Right. So this is that grooming region where you can find all sorts of shortcuts roaming around in the different types of questions. Right. So this will be the most important part in your quantitative ability. The second part, this is the problematic part. Like what I've seen in students, this is the problematic part because numbers is something which, if you develop a friendship with it, then it'll revert back really well. But if you do not have a friendship with it, it'll never revert back well. Right. So a friendship means, I would say, you learn about multiplication tables, you learn about squares, you learn about cubes, powers of 2, powers of 3, you learn about how to convert a ratio into percentage, a percentage into ratio. The moment I say 50%, you remember half. The moment I say 33.33%, you remember one third. But the moment I say, let's say 9 whole 1 by 11 percentage, that is 1/11th of a value. That is where problems start creeping up, right? When the values become a bit uglier. So you have to develop friendship with these concepts. And the second problem is Numbers is one of those topics which doesn't end. Like, there is not even a single scientist in the world who hasn't done anything in numbers, right? Everybody has done something, right? Because of which they have just increased the volume of the chapter. So it will be classification of numbers, divisibility rules, HCF and LCM, then factors. There are lots of concepts under factors. Then there will be units digit, there will be last two digits, there will be remainders and whatnot. There are even miscellaneous questions in numbers these days in CAT. Right. So numbers itself will be a huge topic to cover. In fact, I think we have around 5 to 6 2-hour sessions for numbers in our CAT course. So you can understand 5 to 6 2-hour sessions means it's a 10 to 12 hour long chapter. So that is something which troubles students a bit. Number based systems is very easy. And lately, I haven't even seen many questions from number based systems, but because they have appeared at least once earlier, so number based systems is something which you have to include. I have kept indices and surds and logarithms under number theory, though they are parts of algebra. I've kept them under number theory because once you start studying about number theory, you'll find that the basic classification will consist of rational numbers, irrational numbers, etc. Rational numbers are the numbers which we discuss under the topic of numbers. The moment I move to irrational numbers, then I have to talk about surds, right? So that's when we move to indices and surds, and we have to go through all those concepts and formulae. And after doing indices and surds, the major applications will be there in logarithms, right? So that's why, because these two topics are connected, and indices surds is actually a part of numbers only. That's why I've kept it under the module of number theory. Otherwise, mostly in books, you'll find that they come under algebra. Indeterminate equations is something which CAT is very, very fond of. Very fond of. They do not give you two equations to solve and figure out the values. They don't do that. They give you one equation which has two variables, and they start putting conditions in it. If the value of x lies between 0 and 5, if the value of y lies between 9 and 10, 9 and 15, then how many possible pairs of solutions exist for this equation? That comes under indeterminate equations, where we cannot uniquely determine the solution, right? That comes under indeterminate equations. So this is completely number theory, the entire block of number theory. Then you have geometry and mensuration, one of the most important topics in not only CAT, again, in most of the aptitude tests that you'll take. Mostly geometry and mensuration is based on shapes. There are 2D shapes and there are 3D shapes. These are the two shapes we have to keep on discussing. 2D shapes include triangles, circles, rectangles, parallelogram, trapezium, rhombus, square. Then we have to discuss about polygons. And so all 2D figures, their area, their maybe circumference, perimeter, applications based on that. Triangles itself is huge. There are many different formulae, and you must remember Pythagoras theorem also. Pythagoras theorem itself has n number of applications in different questions. So 2D geometrical figures and 3D geometrical figures mostly consists of cubes, cuboid, sphere, cylinder, cone, etc. All these kinds of figures, their volume, surface area, etc., and applications of those. Coordinate geometry is where you have the x axis and the y axis. You put a coordinate to a particular point. We discuss about straight lines, their different properties. We discuss about circles, and the concept trickles down to trigonometry also. So trigonometry consists of the basic, but trigonometry, I won't say it's that important from the perspective of CAT. Heights and distance might be. Again, it varies from exam to exam. If I talk only about CAT, I won't say trigonometry is a very important topic. But let's say if I talk about MAT, if I talk about, say, ZAT, then trigonometry, heights and distance will have a major chunk there, right? So As I said, 360-degree prep, you need to prepare for all of these. Then the second last module is algebra. Recently, CAT has developed a trend where they kind of fill up the entire question paper with lots of algebra questions. So I talked about arithmetic, where arithmetic consists of somewhere around 40 to 45% of the quants paper. The next one will be algebra. Quadratic equations, they give you applications of quadratic equations in algebra, in arithmetic, in geometry, everywhere. So quadratic equations will be a very, very important topic for CAT. So does inequalities and modulus, functions and graph, progressions and series, AP, GP, mostly. Arithmetic progression, geometric progression, mostly these two progressions they're very fond of. So algebra will also constitute somewhere at least around 20 to 25% at least of the entire CAT paper. So after arithmetic, algebra will be the next important topic. Finally, we have the modern math, the last module, the fifth module, which consists of permutations and combinations. Probability is something I have seen the last probability question in CAT in 2013. After that, they have not given any question on probability as such. Even last year, last to last year, they have not given any questions. But permutations and combinations is a very, very common type of question, which is given not only in CAT, in every other aptitude test that you can think of. Statistics and operator based questions are very, very rare. But it's not like they have not given. They have given questions on very basic statistics mean, median, mode, standard deviation, mean deviation, etc. Not more than that. They have given that, but it's very, very rare. Right. So these two topics are something which you can just skim through, answer a few questions here and there. That'll be all. You don't need a very thorough preparation on these topics. Right. So regarding the topics that I have discussed, if anybody has any sorts of questions you can come up with.
So, as we wait for questions from the participants here, I
Yeah.
had a question. I just counted those areas
Yeah.
you mentioned. Like here, I count like four areas: permutation, combination, operator based questions, statistics, probably. So, in total, I found that there were 24 areas.
24 areas. Yes.
Yeah, so 24. Um, is it advisable for a student to be thorough with all the areas, or he could do a selective choice and kind of why? Because for a student, it would might be natural that some areas he or may not like it or may not be comfortable. I mean,
Absolutely.
so
True.
so so what's the strategy here?
The
Would it be
strategy
advisable to deselect that?
The strategy will be initially when I'm starting my preparation, I should go through each and every topic first,
Okay.
just to know my comfort zone.
Okay.
Everybody might not be comfortable with numbers, everybody might not be
Hmm.
comfortable with geometry. So there are many different areas students are not comfortable with. But first of all, I have to identify what are my comfort zones and what are not my comfort zones. But that doesn't mean I skip a very important topic just because I'm not comfortable with it. I cannot skip geometry. That's absolutely not suggested. Even if I do not like geometry, I have to put in some effort at least so that if at all I get an easy question in geometry, I should be able to solve it. Can I leave out probability? Yes, absolutely. I can do that. Why? Because the last question was in 2013. Since then, for the next 11 years, they've not given any question on probability. You can skip out. Can I skip statistics and operator-based questions? Yes, absolutely. You can do that. Can I skip permutations and combinations? Yes, you can do that, but you'll miss out on two questions for sure. So once I skip a particular topic, I have to remember that the number of questions that CAT is giving on those topics, I'll miss out on those. Or if it's an easy one, maybe I can try. So I'll never suggest that you skip a topic completely. Do not do that. You just go through the basics, answer a few questions at least, so that if at all you get an easy question there, you should be able to answer it. If it's a difficult one, skip, move on. But you should have some knowledge about each and every topic that I've discussed here. The 24 topics, you should have at least some knowledge. Say coordinate geometry. Hardly you'll have one question in CAT. Trigonometry. I don't think they'll give you questions on trigonometry. But trigonometry has basic applications in mensuration and geometry as well, in time, speed, and distance as well. So I cannot completely opt out of trigonometry. I should at least know Sine 30 is half, cos 30 is root 3 by 2, cos 45 is 1 by root. I should be knowing these values at least and how to apply them. The rest of it, I don't need it. So, if at all somebody has to do some selective study, you start studying all the topics first. Ask your mentor that what are the topics I can skip. If at all you want to skip, you skip it after your mocks, not before your mocks. Before your mocks, when you're going for all the basics, you go through all the basics of each and every topic. Then finally, you will have an idea that, okay, this is not a topic I'm that well versed with, or is it really that important for CAT? If yes, then I'll put some extra effort. Is it not really that important? Okay, chalo, I'll skip it. So you can make that decision only when you know how important that topic is and how much you are comfortable with it.
So,
I
sir,
hope. Yeah.
basically, you're saying that uh, first a student should prepare all the topics, and then there is a stage where he keeps on taking the mocks.
Absolutely. Once he or she starts taking the box, then he'll understand that, okay, these are the points where I'm not able to score marks. I've been trying, but I'm not able to score marks. So this is basically the weaker points. So logically, I cannot expect much marks from there. So rather, maybe these are a few topics which I'll avoid a bit. And these are the topics which is my zone. I'll mostly answer questions from there. But there is a time after which he or she understands, not initially.
Okay, okay, got it, sir.
Okay. Now, next we have a preparation strategy. Very, 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 very important. Generally, people dive into like, give me a book, I'll read, I'll answer questions, or maybe I'll join a coaching. There are classes, I'll blindly answer questions from their assignments and portals. Don't do that. You have a planning of your own. That planning is primarily based into these three, right? They keep on revolving. First of all, the basics. What do you mean by basics? Do I know Pythagoras theorem? Do I know speed is equal to distance by time, and how variation is applied, how ratio is applied to make those solutions smaller? Do I know how boats and streams work? Do I know the method of alligations? Do I know what is weighted average? Do I know what happens when a two-digit number, when the digits are reversed? What happens if I add them up? What happens if I subtract them? Do I know the divisibility rules of numbers? Like the moment I see a question based on divisibility rule, does it strike my mind then and there? It should not take much time, right? So the moment you see that, you are able to connect with the formula or with the concept that has been tested in the question. If the faster you are able to connect, the better your basic preparations are. So basics not only consists of a sheet which is filled up with formula and theorems. No, that's not how you develop basics. You develop basics by visualizing things. It should not be like, okay, you give me the equation, I'll be able to solve it very fast. Nobody's interested in that. Are you able to create the equation from the scenario that they have given? Can you read the entire question and interpret it while reading and understand what are the variables I should be taking, or should I take any variables at all? Can I do it without using any variables? Maybe just by manipulating numbers. Can I do that? So these thought processes, the faster you think about them, the faster you are able to answer a question. So basics not only include knowing all the concepts properly, but you should be able to answer lots and lots of questions based on those topics which you have gone through. That will take you at least, like, even if I talk about February to, let's say, October end, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October. You have around nine, not exactly nine, around 8.5 months. I'm not considering November at all. If you consider half of November, then you have 9 months. But in between that, there will be lots of family functions and festivals and everything. I talked about all of that in the beginning itself. So if you counter all of that, then effectively you have around 8 months. 8 months where you can devote somewhere around 3 to 4 months. I'm not saying initial 3 to 4 months. Basics is something which will keep on progressing. It's a gradual approach. It's not like one fine day, 2 months, 60 days, my basics are over. That cannot happen, right? Because even if you are done with the basics of time, speed, and distance, there will be questions which you are not able to solve, right? So that will always happen. So it never happens that my basics are over. But overall, I have an idea of everything. That itself will take around 3 to 4 months. And after the first 2.5 months, you should start taking mocks. Do not wait for your basics to get over. Don't do that. कि बेसिक्स खत्म करेंगे उसके बाद मॉक्स शुरू करेंगे. Don't do that. You start your mocks right from April, May. Without mocks, your entire preparation is zero. It won't fetch you anything. Right? So from the basics, you have to jump to mocks. Then you take the actual test. After mocks, you have to analyze the mocks properly. By analyze, I do not mean you solve all the questions again. No. By analysis, I mean you should have a particular sequence of yourself that, okay, this was the sequence in which I should have answered the questions. This is the easier one. I should have answered it first. This is the difficult one. I shouldn't have spent so much of time answering this one. Right. So that sequence should come out after each and every mock test. That itself will make you prone to, finding out which one is easy. I'll solve that first. In the entire paper, having 22 questions, let me first of all quickly find out which are the 7, 8 questions which are the easiest ones. I'll solve them first. That will give you immense amount of confidence because 8 questions, 24 marks are already there. 8 questions, and as I said, 8, 8, 8, 8. That gives you a 99 percentile in 2023. So that gives you an immense amount of confidence, right? So you develop that knack of finding out easier questions first and solving only have a habit of analyzing the mocks properly.
Sir,
Then,
I have a question here.
yes, sir.
In the actual CAT paper,
Hmm.
since it's an online test, do you have the option of first going? Do you have the option of looking at all the questions? And is it recommended that you first go and see all the questions that have been given before you start solving?
Uh, they, first of all, they have a question paper format. They have given an icon on the top of it where if you click, you'll see the entire question paper on the
Okay.
first row.
Okay.
That is definitely advantageous if you can use it.
Got
It's
it.
the same as I have the entire question paper in my hand
Yeah.
so that I do not have to read through the entire question, all the
Yeah. Yeah.
questions. I can just find out, okay, this
Correct.
one looks easier, this one looks easier.
Sure.
So I can have a glimpse of.
Okay. Yeah.
But if you ask me about those 40 minutes, about those 40 minutes, someone should spend definitely the initial 4 to 5 minutes skimming through the question paper and trying to find out which of the questions they look easier.
Got it.
Initial 4 to 5 minutes, you have to. Rest of the 35 minutes, you distribute it.
Right.
You solve easier questions. You take 10 to 15 minutes. You are left with rest of the 20 minutes. Rest of the 20 minutes you have to devote towards medium and difficult questions, as many as you can solve. So that's how you have to break the entire part. It should not be like I jump to solving questions the moment they start the timer. Don't do that.
Correct.
And once you keep on taking mocks, you get habituated with the timer. The timer is a dangerous thing. Remember, the timer keeps on playing with your mind. It keeps on giving you many heart attacks. every second,
Okay.
right? So until and unless you learn how to ignore that timer, till then it will keep on bothering you. And after the mocks are done, after the actual test is done, then comes the actual preparation of GWPI, the group discussions, the group exercises, the written ability tests, the personal interview, that entire arena. That's a completely different story altogether. Where once you get into GWPI, then you will understand that, okay, I think I have to get back to my basics again. Not the basics of CAT, my personal basics. What sort of a character I am? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? Why on earth do I want to do an MBA? So you have to get back to those basics again. Introspection, right, on your career. So that's how this entire cycle keeps on flowing. You start with the basics of CAT, you become an expert by taking mocks, you take the actual test, you get the calls, you get the GWPI calls, then you start introspecting on yourself, read about current affairs, read about your subjects, you read about everything under the sky, whatever they can ask you questions from. So you get back to basics again. That's how the entire cycle moves in your entire preparation. So if you have around 9 months or 8 months, let's say, 3 to 4 months, you have to spend to learn all the basics, where there will be an overlap with the mocks also. So you start taking mocks from April or May, and it goes on till November. You have to keep on doing that, and parallelly, you have to keep on analyzing. It's a simple process. It's not that complicated, just that you need to be persistent. Persistently, you have to keep on doing this. Okay, next, is solving more questions the only strategy to excel in QA? No, you have to solve questions smartly. Smartly in the sense, once I know that this is all ratio, proportion, and variation, I know these are all the topics. I have solved the basic questions. From now on, whenever I start solving ratio, proportion, and variation, I take 10 questions at a time. I'll apply my mind and I'll develop a knack of figuring out which one is easier. I'll solve that first. Which one is easier? I'll put a mark. Okay, this one seems a bit difficult. This one completely went over my head. I have absolutely no idea. That's a difficult question. I won't be answering that. So, with practice, I have to bring this one. That's the first point. Second point is, because the so-called syllabus is vast, there are 24 topics. Even if I remove the unimportant topics, there are at least 20 topics which I have to go for. What happens is, once you complete arithmetic, you move to numbers, you move to geometry, you tend to forget arithmetic. So it cannot be like I finish off everything till time, speed, and distance first. Then and only then I'll move to numbers. Once I complete numbers, then and only then I'll go to geometry. Do not do that. That doesn't happen because the number of questions will never end. So once you finish off arithmetic, move to numbers, you still need some connection with arithmetic. You have to keep on, let's say, once in 2 days, once in 3 days, you have to keep on solving arithmetic. Once you move to geometry, now there are two backlogs. You have to keep on solving numbers, keep on solving arithmetic with it. So the more you dig into the syllabus, the more you have backlogs which have to cover. It should not be like my touch with numbers has completely gone zero. You cannot do that. So only solving more questions do not help. Solving questions smartly definitely help. And that is how you should practice quants. Arithmetic first, then numbers, then geometry, then algebra, then modern math. This should be the sequence. And once you move up the ladder, you should not forget whatever you have done earlier. You should have a connection with them also, right? So always come back, take 10 questions, 20 questions, try to find out how many of them are easy. I'll solve them. How many are medium? I'll mark them. I'll come back to it later. How many are difficult? I'll mark them. I won't solve them. So always get yourself into a testing position once you are getting back to the previous topics. So that's how you have to keep on practicing. Sectional tests are the best ways to do that. So if you have a portal, Study Break Academy already has a portal. So in that student portal, we have somewhere around 850 tests, I guess. So sectionals, full length mocks. If you want to take the previous year papers as mocks, we have that also. If you want to take specific test based mocks, they are also there. So that helps you keep in touch with the topics which you have already done earlier. What are shortcuts and how do I understand the difficulty levels of questions? It will always be better if I show you a few questions, how to solve them, and how a particular question can become difficult for somebody, and the same question can become easy for somebody just because he or she must have seen a more elegant approach to solve that particular problem. That elegant approach is called a shortcut, because there cannot be only one particular way to solve a problem, right? There might be n number of ways. Out of those n number of ways, one particular way which takes the least amount of time, are you able to select that? Are you able to select it quickly that, okay, this has to be the way through which I should be solving the question? It's the same as if you, let's say, if your relatives stay in a particular place which is a bit far away from your place, and you decided to visit their place, but you know that there are 7 different routes to visit that place. Automatically, it strikes your mind that, okay, no, out of the other ways, leave it out. I'll rather take a metro. I'll take the metro, I'll drop off at that station, I'll take an auto, and bingo, I reach there. That will possibly be the easiest route. Why could you do that? Because you have gone through each and every route n number of ways. That's the only way to remember. That's the only way it strikes your mind quickly. Because you have gone through that route many, 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 many times. So there is nothing called a shortcut. There are always multiple approaches to solve a problem. Which one is the most optimized approach? That is what people call as a shortcut. I'll show you certain examples. Say this is a question from CAT 2024, last year, the recent one. They have given, oh, I'll show you one more thing here. It's a very interesting thing. I'll show you. Rajesh and Vimal, these are the two characters, they own 20 hectares and 30 hectares of agricultural land, respectively, which are entirely covered by wheat and mustard crops. Right. So the first idea that I get is there are two characters, Rajesh and Vimal. I always ask students never start solving the way you used to solve in class 9 and 10 by writing down everything, every equation. Nobody is going to look at whatever rough work you have done. Everybody is interested in which answer you have marked. And human beings won't test it. The computer will check. The computer will check and figure out that these many are correct, these many are wrong. So nobody bothers about what you have written in your rough paper. So always try to utilize the rough paper as much as possible rather than keep on writing, writing, writing. You don't need to do all of that. So Rajesh and Vimal, 20 hectares and 30 hectares. Okay, done. And they are filled with wheat and mustard crops only. So wheat and mustard, wheat and mustard. This is what they have. The cultivation area of wheat and mustard in the land owned by Vimal are in the ratio 5 is to 3. So this is 5 is to 3. If the total cultivation area of wheat and mustard, total, by total, obviously they mean 30 and 20 both combined. So 50. Under that, wheat and mustard, that is given as 11 is to 9, right? Then the ratio of cultivation of wheat and mustard in the land owned by Rajesh is, so they want this ratio. That's it, nothing else. Looks very easy. The information given is not that difficult. See, a question becomes difficult one when the language is difficult. When you are not able to understand what they're asking me to do, that becomes difficult. Number two, if you are not able to relate with which concept they're talking about, or maybe you can relate with the concept, but you have not studied it. You have not, you don't have enough confidence in it. That becomes difficult. Or you are not able to connect with any formula at all. Like you are unable to understand where do I even start. That becomes a difficult question. This is obviously not that sort of a question where you do not understand where to start, where you are not able to connect with the formula or the theorem, or you are not able to understand what they're asking you to do. This is none of those. So, this question will be either easy for somebody or medium for somebody. Medium for someone who has not done ample amount of practice in ratio, proportion, and variation. Easy for somebody who has solved at least 200, 250, 300 questions on ratio, proportion, and variation. For that guy, it will definitely be an easy question. Now let's talk about approaches, right? How different can be the approaches? How many different ways a student might think of? Somebody might think, okay, 30, it has to be divided in the ratio 5 is to 3. So I write it as 5/8 of 30. I write this one as 3/8 of 30 and then find out the value. Similarly, this one is 11/20th of 50 and this one is 9/20th of 50. Now, after writing all of this, he'll realize that, okay, I'll be getting fractions, decimals everywhere. Automatically, the easy question, it becomes a headache. That, okay, I'll have decimals here, so okay, I have to do that calculation again. ठीक है, चलो करते हैं. Let's put some effort. So automatically, from a 2 minute question, it extends to 3 minutes and 4 minutes, right? Just because of that irritation that you have to use decimals here. And there will be another set of students who will think that, okay, why do I need to bring decimals here? I'll convert the values into something which will give me all the answers in integers. How do I do that? He'll think that, okay, the first value is 20, the next value is 30, and the total value is given as 50. I just have to break them into different ratios. Why don't I? Because I know that these three values are in the ratio 2 is to 3 is to 5. So why don't I do something like this? I have a 5 and a 3 here, which adds up to give me 8. So had this been a multiple of 8, that would have been the best for me, right? That would have been the best scenario. So a multiple of 8, a multiple of 30, why don't I make it 120? A multiple of 8, a multiple of 30. Right? I'll make it 120. Now, to make it 120, I had to multiply a 4 here. So why don't I multiply a 4 with each and every one of them? How does it help? 120, when divided in the ratio 5 is to 3, 5 plus 3 gives me 8. 8 units equivalent to 120. So each unit is equivalent to 15. So 5 times 15, 3 times 15, I get beautiful values 75 and 45, all integers. 200, when divided in the ratio 11 is to 9, 11 plus 9 gives me 20 units. 20 units are equivalent to 200, so each unit is 10. So I just have to multiply 10 here, 10 here. I don't even need to write it. Multiplication should be done orally. So I'll have a 90 here. So I know the total is 110, out of which I'm already done with 75 here. So remaining 35 should come here. A total of 90, out of which 45 is done. I should have a 45 here. So the ratio itself gives me 7 is to 9, which means option D has to be the answer. Is that a shortcut? No, it's not a shortcut. It's just the way you look at the problem. It's not a shortcut approach. It's not a shortcut formula, nothing. It's not like this kind of an approach will be written down somewhere as a formula. No, it's just the way you observe. You do not like fractions. You have to remove fractions. What do? Whatever is the denominator, you multiply the number with that denominator initially without disturbing the ratio. That's it. Every number will be in terms of an integer. Now, let me tell you the interesting fact about this question. I've mentioned something a few minutes back. I'll show it to you. The values were 20 WM, 30 WM, right? Now, if somebody doesn't read the question properly, Rajesh and Vimal, 20 hectares, 30 hectares, blah, 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 wheat and mustard crop, everything fine. The cultivation area of wheat and mustard in the land owned by Vimal, they've talked about Vimal. If somebody mistakenly puts the 5 is to 3 here by mistake, he did not understand it's Vimal, maybe he overlooked and he thought Rajesh, so 5 is to 3. And overall, in total, he has 11 is to 9. Right? Again, let's say he is a shortcut guru. He looks at the values and he understands, okay, what to do with them. So 5 plus 3, 8, a multiple of 8 and a multiple of 20. Why don't I already have a 4 here, so let me make it 40. And I multiply a 2 here, make it 60. Multiply a 2 here, make it 100. So 100, when distributed in the ratio 11 is to 9, gives me 20 goes 5 times, that is 55 and 45. 40, when divided in the ratio 5 is to 3, gives me 8 goes 5 times, so 25 and 15. So out of 55, I'm done with 25, I'm left with 30. Out of 45, I'm done with 15, I'm left with 30. The ratio is 1 is to 1, and you'll see that it's there in the options. So if you overlook something, you will get that answer in the options as well. That is how they design the options. And once you see 1 is to 1 in the options, you won't see anything else, right? You think that, okay, it's an easy question. I've solved it. I've done the calculations. I got 1 is to 1. It's there in the options. It has to be correct. You mark it. And you got a -1. You lost the 3 marks, which you are supposed to get if you make it correct. And you lost an extra mark. So, in a question in CAT, you have to be very, very cautious that whatever they have talked about in the entire question, I have ample amount of time to read it, to understand it, and to produce it, to execute it properly. You have ample amount of time to do that. You should be cautious. Otherwise, these kinds of silly mistakes will cost you a lot. Later on, when you come out of the test and find that, okay, that was a grave mistake. That was a very easy question which I missed out. That thing will give you a headache. You will be very, very irritated with that. Right. So reading the question properly is a very, very important thing in CAT. Let me take one more example. This is also, oh, this is also a very good question. This is also from CAT 2024, last year. How somebody a normal student, how would a student approach, and how somebody well prepared who has a friendship with numbers, how that character will approach, look at the difference between the two.
Sir, can I observe something here?
Yeah, absolutely, sir.
So this looks like a typical placement question also. You know,
Absolutely.
I mean, any corporate aptitude
uh,
question paper would have something like this.
so if you talk about the 22 questions in CAT,
Okay.
you will find at least 6 to 7 questions which are very easy.
Okay.
The only problem is people are not able to point them out, because somewhere in their head it's always going cat is equal to difficult, cat is equal to difficult, cat cannot give you an easy question. It keeps on going on in their minds, right? So out of the 22 questions, it's never possible that they'll give you all 22 difficult. They'll never do that. They'll put around 6 to 7 easy questions. That was the only problem with CAT 2023 paper. In CAT 2023, the number of easy questions were very less.
Okay.
These kinds of questions, they had no place in CAT 23. So suddenly in CAT 24, they made the paper easy and the 99 percentile score went up. So that's what
Okay.
they do at times.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so the question says a train covered a certain distance at a uniform speed. Okay, if the train would have been 6 kilometer per hour faster. Now, see, the moment I'm reading each and every line, I'm framing equations in my head. A train covered a certain distance at a uniform speed. What is the speed? Let me consider v. What is the distance? I don't know. If it covers in t time, then v into t. That will be the total distance covered. if the train would have been 6 kilometer per hour faster. So instead of v, had it been v plus 6, so initially v into t, this was the total distance. Had the speed been 6 kilometer per hour faster, it would have been v plus 6. The train would have taken 4 hours less than the scheduled time. So t minus 4, it would have covered the same distance. No doubts about that. And if the train were slower by 6 kilometer per hour, so v minus 6, it would have taken 6 hours more. So I would write t plus 6 again, it would have covered the same distance. No doubts about that. So I have all these three equal to the distance. What do they want? They want find the length of the journey. They want us to figure out the distance. So what I have to do is I have to equalize all three of them and thereby make equations, solve them, and figure out the distance. Because there are two variables here and I do not know the value here. That's another problem. So there are two variables, v and t, and I don't know what's there on the right hand side. There is no number there. I have to figure it out. In that scenario, even making the equations and solving them might become a bit difficult. That's when a student starts thinking, they're asking me for the length of the journey, right? And they've given them in the options. There must be a reason why the answer is an integer, a very good looking integer ending in zero. Still, they did not give a theta question for this. They did not give you a box here, remove the options, and asked you put the answer here directly. There must be a reason for it. The reason is they want to check whether your friendship with numbers is good enough. That's it. If you look at this entire relation, you'll see that two numbers are multiplied to get the distance, which is the answer, one of the options. Okay. Now v plus 6, so you increase it by 6, minus 4, you decrease it by 4, you again land up in the answer. You decrease it by 6, you increase it by 6, you again land up in the answer. So basically, whatever is the answer, you have to think about factors of it. But these numbers have many, many factors. How many factors should I think of? Right? That's when another logic should strike your mind. Think about it. Whatever is this number, you increase it by 6 and you decrease it by 6. So obviously, between these two numbers, there is a gap of 12, right? Similarly, the other number, you decrease it by 4 and you increase it by 6, there is a gap of 10 between these two numbers. So think about it. There is a number, there are two factors. You decrease one of the factors by 12, you increase another factor by 10, and the product remains the same. Had it been a scenario, you decrease a number by 12 and you increase the other one by 2, and the answer remains the same. What could have I said? That the two factors that I'm talking about, they're far away from each other. But if one of them is decreased by 12 and the other one changes by 10, still the product remains the same, then the two numbers, the two factors that are talking about, they must be close enough to each other. They must be very close, right? That's why the change did not affect the product at all, right? The changes are pretty close. These are the basics that I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the basics of this into this is equal to this. Make the equation, solve the problem. No, I'm not talking about those basics. I'm talking about the logical basics. The logical basics will come to your mind only when you have answered questions. Otherwise, they won't. So, a student, what will he do? He'll take 720, he'll take 800, 640, and 780. He'll break them apart. He'll take the factors, but the factors must be close enough where the second factor is smaller than the first factor. That's the logic in his mind. Okay. Now, 720, think about a perfect square which is closer to 720. We can think about 729, which is 27. So the second factor has to be less than 27. 26, no, 26 cannot divide 720. 25, no, cannot divide 24, yes. So if I write a 24 here, I have to write a 30 here. Well and good. Close factors, I've written one. 800, let's say. A perfect square which is closer to 800, 784. 784 is 28 square. So the second factor has to be less than 28. 27? No. 26? No. 25? Yes. 25 can be a very good option. 25 can be a very good option. So if I take 25 here, I need 32 here. Well and good. 640. Think about 625, 25. So the value that I'm talking about, the second factor, it should be less than 25. Okay. 24, not possible. 23, not possible. 20, not, yes, 20 is possible. So if I take 20 here, I'll have 32. Move to 780. Perfect square near 780, 784, 28 square. So the second factor should be less than 28. 27, no. 26, yes. 26 into 30. These are the close factors. Now, all I have to do is put these conditions there. Put these conditions in check. Which one of them applies? If I reduce by 4, if I reduce by 4, this becomes 20, 21, 16, 22. Automatically, I can reject this one and this one because 21 cannot divide 800, 22 cannot divide 780. Not possible. Now you increase it by 6. If I increase it by 6, this becomes 30. This becomes 26. 26 cannot divide 640. So this is also out. 720 has to be the answer. So this is called option testing. Option testing cannot be blindly done by any process. No, your process should be properly funnelized. What kind of logic should I apply so that my iterations are not that much? If I'm checking the options, it's a very good approach, but checking the options should not be like your iterations are so much that you get engrossed into the options and you miss out on a lot of time. You cannot do that. So this is how somebody can actually not make any equations at all. No manipulations in equations are required, and still you can get the answer correctly without any doubts at all. Let me see what kind of examples I have. Next one. Oh, this is one of those formats of questions which has appeared in CAT so many times that I cannot even count. This is called a replacement problem. A replacement problem where you have a particular solution, you take out some part of it, you replenish it with water, it becomes a mixture. You again take out some part of the solution, you replenish it with water, the concentration changes, you keep on doing it again and again. That's called replenishment, right? Replacement problem. So, in replacement problems, students generally have one formula in mind, P minus Q upon P whole power N. I suggest you do not require any formula at all, right? If I know that from a 10-liter milk solution, if I'm taking out 1 liter, so I'm left with 9 liters. Now I'm putting in 1 liter of water, right? I've taken out 1 liter, I've put in 1 liter of water, the concentration has changed. Initially, milk was 100%. Now milk became 90%. Why? 10 percentage was taken out. 10 liters, I took out 1 liter. So 10 percentage was taken out. So that 10 percentage has dropped, right? So 100 percentage, now I'm left with 9/10 of the value because 1/10 has always already moved out. If I do the same thing, if I repeat it again, I'll see that I'll be left with 81 percentage of this, and this will be 19 liters. Overall, I'll have 100 liters. I can see that again, there is a 9/10 one. So if it was 10 liters earlier, once you removed 10%, replenished 10%, that became 9/10. You do it again, another 9/10. You do it again, another 9/10. That's how it goes on. If somebody understands this much of basics, he can understand this question very, very easily. A mixture P is formed by removing a certain amount of coffee from a coffee jar and replacing the same amount with cocoa powder. So there is a coffee jar and there is cocoa. There is a pure mixture first. You take out some amount of coffee, you pour some amount of cocoa in it, and you make a mixture P. How much? I have no idea as of now. The same amount again removed from mixture P and replaced with same amount of cocoa powder to form another mixture Q, where again there will be coffee and cocoa. But now they have given, if the ratio of coffee and cocoa in the mixture is 16 is to 9, then the ratio of cocoa in mixture P to that in mixture Q. So they want the ratio of this one and this one. That is the question. Now, a few logics that you have to follow here, a few logics. I know that in this entire mixture, whatever I've taken out, I've given it back in some other format, maybe, but I've given it back. So the total amount of mixture has never changed. So if I know that this is 16 and 9, so the total is 25. So initially, I can say the amount of coffee must have been 25. There was no cocoa in it. I just removed some amount of coffee and replenished with cocoa, right? Okay. Now my question is, this had 100% coffee, right? And this one has 16 upon 25 into 100, that is 64% coffee, right? 16 upon 25. So what happened with 100 that it changed to 64? With 100, like this, something got multiplied and it got multiplied twice and made it 64. So what got multiplied twice? That multiplying factor square is 64 upon 100. 64 upon 100 is 8 upon 10 whole square. So this is 4 is to 5, which means they must have multiplied 4 by 5 with it, right? 4/5 means 20% was removed and 80% was left. So from 25, if 4 by 5 is multiplied, what do I get? I get 20 here. But I know that the total amount of mixture has never changed. So this must be 5. Simple. The ratio 5 is to 9 has to be the answer. So all you need to do is you need to understand what are replacement problems. You need to go beyond the formula approach. Forget about the formula approach. You need to understand what's happening inside. That is what I mean by basics. This same question can become easy, can become medium, can become difficult also for three different categories of students. Easy for someone who knows this method, medium for someone who knows the formula, not this method, difficult for someone who hasn't gone through any of these, who has never seen a replacement problem. So, easy, medium, difficult, the difficulty level of a question, it completely depends upon how much well versed you are with the concepts. Have you just mugged up the formulae or have you gone deep into it? Have you started visualizing it? If you have started visualizing it, most of the questions in CAT you'll find are easy and medium. And your campus recruitment, SNAP, banking test, those kinds of questions will be very, very easy for you once you start visualizing these. Sir, are we left with some time or?
Yeah, we are actually at the end. There is a
Okay.
question from Sabyasachi. How much
Okay.
depth we have to study each topics? I think that's
Okay.
again a very basic kind of question. But before you attempt that question, maybe we could go off screen. Uh,
Sure. Absolutely.
yeah. So, so I So I hope the
So I
participants
hope,
found that this session was useful to them, and we covered about the scenario of the entire entrance test spectrum for MBA studies in our country, and we discussed different examinations. We also took that interesting route of understanding CAD vis-a-vis other exams in terms of difficulties. And today's session was to do with quantitative techniques, and we discussed the different kinds of chapters which are comprising in that, and what are the kind of chapters and how much you need to study. So, when Sabyasachi, you are asking how much depth we have to study in each topics, we did answer that question in terms of you go topic by topic, you need to do all the topics, but as you hit the mock stage, you will find that there will be certain topics which are to your liking, you find it more comfortable, where you need to invest more of time, and the others you can take it a little bit easier. And Dipanja sir is going to expand on that. But before we complete, please understand that these are webinars which we conduct every Saturday, and these are very placement and career oriented. We would like to again do another webinar on CAT topics, maybe this month or the next month for sure. And Dipanjan sir, my request to you would be to take us through, say, logical reasoning and data interpretation, verbal topics, so that we complete a kind of series. Today we talked about quantitative, which is again a very important area, but we look at the other areas as well. So we can talk about that, and then in CAT we shall again come and solve critical and interesting kind of questions, applying the innovative techniques as Dipanjan sir just showed today. So we look forward, participants, students, to uh, join our webinars. We are there every Saturday, 6 to 7 for short webinars, 6 to 8 for longer webinars. Usually the video recording is done, and you can even go through that by going into that webinar page and looking through the videos. But the best part of it is come and attend in person, ask your question, clarify your doubts. So the question from Sabyasachi Roy as we complete is how much depth we have to study each topics. Dipanjan sir, a quick answer before you close.
That's actually quite an abstract question. You cannot have the similar kind of depth in each and every topic. But yes, one thing is for sure, you do not have to go for proving the formulae, or maybe let's say in geometry you have lots of theorems. You have absolutely no requirement of proving all of them. That's not required. But the depth that I talked about, that was primarily visualizing the concepts properly. It should not be like, okay, I know compound interest, it's P into 1 plus R by 100 whole power N. I understand it. When they give me the value of P, the value of R, the value of N, I can calculate everything. That's fine. That's well and good. But every time you cannot have that leverage, that every time they have given you two of them, you figure out the third one. No, there at times there will be logics involved. So you need to understand that compound interest is the same as geometric progression. You keep on multiplying a number with each and every principal value to get the amount for the next. And how do I apply percentages inside so that my entire calculation becomes easier? So these are the basics, these are the depths that I was talking about. Right. So again, it's an extensive topic. Simple interest, compound interest, not only this one. Everywhere, when I talk about depth of how much is required, how much depth is required, it's abstract, and it depends from chapter to chapter. It keeps on changing. But the only thing that I can say is you do not need to prove any theorem or any formula. That's not required. Know the formula, but know its application. That's more important, much, much more.
So, thank you, Dipanjan sir, for that explanation, and thank you, participants, for attending today's session. It has been a long one. Thank you for staying with us. We have given a format, a Google Sheet, in which you can fill up if you would like to have a free consultation with SBA, that is Study Break Academy. You would like to speak to Dipanjan sir. Uh, you are most welcome to book a free consulting session on studying for your MBA entrance examination, and especially if you are aiming for 2025. So please do click on that form and complete it. And hope to see you guys again in our future webinars. Thank you so much. Goodbye. Good night.
Thank you so much, guys, for attending the session. Bye bye. Take care.